No, we are. Okay. I guess we're live now, so we're going to call this meeting to order. Everybody has an agenda in front of them. Any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, we'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I can accept it.
Okay, just a second here. Under events and meetings, or? Okay. So 7.4.
I can't be up.
So 7.4, we're going to add in South Grow annual general meeting. Any others? If not, if that was Murray, I'll accept your motion now, Murray.
Yeah, I'll accept it with the addition of South Grove annual meeting.
Okay, thanks. Any others? All in favor? Anybody opposed?
In favor.
Favor.
Okay, in favor. I think we got enough. Thank you very much. And we'll skip down quickly to delegations, and we'll turn the time over to Sergeant Yetman for the RCMP report.
Good morning, everybody. So I'm here today to present the stats for May of 2020 as compared to May of last year, 2019. I'll just get right into it here. So impaired driving, 24 hours, 30-day suspensions. We had 6 this year in May. Assaults, we had 2, which is down from 4 same time last year. Break and enters, we had 2, down from 3 last year. Thefts, down a bit. Last year we had 12 in May, this year we had 8. Uttering threats, we had 1. Mischief, we had 7, which is down from 10 last year. CDSA, controlled drugs, we had 0, and it was 0 last year as well. Other criminal code, other statutes, again, that encompasses a lot of different things. We had 33 last year, we had 36 this year. Assistance to police, other agencies, general public. We had 3 last year, 4 this year. 911 hang-ups, never to be outdone. 46 last year, 50 this year. False alarms remained steady at 1. Abandoned vehicles, we had 0. Animal calls, we had 0. Suspicious persons and vehicles, we had 4 this year, down 1 from 5 last year. Lost and found property remained the same at 3. Firearms Act, we had 1 this year. Check stops, 0, although we did do, I believe, a JFO maybe in May. Traffic complaints, 24, down from 99 the previous year. That's reflective of the decrease in tickets and traffic enforcement currently due to COVID-19, which will likely be changing very soon. Traffic collisions, we had 14 last year, down to 8 this year. Bylaw complaints, 1 last year, 5 this year. Admin files, we had 4 last year, 0 this year. So total calls for May of 2019 were 254. Total calls for May of 2020 were 162. Any questions on that before I move on?
You've already kind of mentioned it, not to be outdone from last year, the hang-ups, the 911. It seems like that number just grows every month. It must take an awful lot of your time tracking each and every one of those down.
It does, and you know, as much as I hate to say it, for this particular detachment area, this seems to be a reality. I think I've said it before. I think we're for this particular area, we happen to be in a bit of a perfect storm. Several different factors all kind of converging to cause such a high number of 911 hang-ups. And it's really not something that you can pin on any one particular factor. There's like several factors that are all kind of coming together to create this thing for us. Interesting to note that if you go into the Coaldale area, if you go to the east to Bow Island, their numbers are drastically lower than ours. But again, it boils down to tower placement, you know, and even demographics. I mean, you know, people letting their kids, you know, use deactivated cell phones. So we're trying to do the education piece as much as we can. But at the end of the day, it's, you know, I think for us here, it's a reality.
Yep. Anything that sticks out to you that, you know, is maybe concerning that we should be aware of?
You know, not at present. I mean, I think we're finding that, you know, kind of right now in the COVID-19 world, we've decreased the amount of things that are coming into our front counter. I mean, we're still very much dealing with matters as they're reported to us. Nothing has really gone down a whole lot for us. Like we're still doing the criminal investigations. I mean, at the end of the day, that's our core function. So we're dealing with the, you know, the assaults, the sex assaults, some cases. We've got some historical files that are 20, 25 years old that resurface after all these years, and we have to investigate those as well. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. As far as any trends, you know, as far as our rural crime piece, I mean, it fluctuates. As you can see, month to month, it tends to go up and down. But I mean, we're on top of that as well. We're working with different groups and units within the within the RCMP to currently kind of stay on top of that rural crime piece. I hope that answered your question.
Yep, thank you. You can, awesome. Any other questions, anybody, or go ahead and carry on with your report.
Okay, so moving into traffic, again, traffic enforcement numbers are heavily influenced by the current COVID-19 pandemic. Like I said, we're probably going to see some changes here shortly. We'll be picking up in this regard again. So for May of 2020, 1 speeding, 0 intersection, 1 other moving, 0 seatbelts, 1 non-moving, and 1 other provincial acts and statutes. So for a total of 4 traffic violations. Collisions. So you'll see collisions, reportable collisions have come down quite a bit. So May of 2019, we had 12 reportable. May of 2020, we had 6. Injury collisions remain same at 2, 0 fatalities. So total collisions for May of 2019 were 14, and for May of 2020, we were down to 8. Park patrols, Forks, 4 patrols. I believe the Forks probably has seen more patrols than that, to be honest with you. Grassy Lake Park, 3, other 2. So total park patrols were 9. And again, I think somewhere in May, or it could be in April, but I think we did something in May as well with the CPOs. And when Kirk presents his stats, I'm sure he can either support that or even correct it if I'm a little bit off. As far as patrols, members have conducted a total of 157 patrols throughout our area during the month of May, which is a fairly good number. Shows that the members are out there, they're out visible in the communities. One of our towns, we've been hearing lots of good things from them. They see the police quite a bit, and they're commenting on our visibility. We've also got a person that we're keeping an eye on here that's on conditions, and our members will be doing curfew checks on them. And again, with COVID-19, we've been tasked to conduct checks on persons coming back into Canada pursuant to the Quarantine Act. So all those things have kind of combined to keep us going pretty steady here. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions at all on his report? Not hearing any, I just want to say thank you for all you're doing in the community, for keeping our community safe, and the visibility you have out there, helping to deter some crime.
We certainly hope so. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's our goal. You know, we're here to ensure community safety. We're here to ensure the safety of our public and our communities at large. So, and I truly appreciate your comments, Reeve.
Any other comments or questions for Sergeant Yetman? If not, thank you very much, and we'll turn the time over to Sergeant Hughes, the CPOs.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Morning, Council. Make sure you guys can hear me there. Morning, Council, and our residents listening online. Before you is the Regional Enforcement Services May 2020 report. Before I get started on that, I want to give a shout out to the RCMP. Certainly, it's been some difficult times in the last 2 to 3 weeks here. As law enforcement officers, we feel it as well, and we'd like to express our sincere thanks to them and our community partners that have kept the community safe. And we've heard very positive things, we always have, about the RCMP's policing model. So we just want to give a shout out to our community partners there in the RCMP. Secondly, I'd like to apologize for the very small font on the front page. That's we don't usually get 3 levels of reports, and it didn't quite fit as well as it did on my computer. So I know that some councillors have maybe did a little bit more squinting than normal. So Community Peace Officer Program total incident types for the month was 149. It was a busy month for us. A lot of that had to do with COVID-19, and of course, the nice weather brings out some more bylaw complaints, which kind of ups our numbers. Total patrol routes hit was 498. Again, that's a little bit more of an increase, but that's because the guys were on the road a lot more in regards to different types of bylaw complaints. Violation tickets issued were only 18. A lot of those had to do with weights and measures. And warnings provided was 47, and that had to do with bylaw and COVID-19 in our recreational areas. Notable calls for service for the month of May. One of our peace officers on routine patrol came across a single vehicle MVC. I was just in front of Barnwell. The officer stopped, offered assistance to the driver, provided traffic control until the arrival of the tow truck. We did report it to the RCMP. There was some property damage to the fence, so we contacted the landowner as well, and the traffic accident report were completed. CPO Butler did assist the Alberta Peace Officer Dana Murphy, there's a little too many Danas in this report, of the SPCA investigating some files regarding to animal abuse and some unauthorized disposal of carcasses. This is a good example of our ability to work with other agencies, and it's something we do very well. CPO Henry Peters dealt with a rash of animal calls, including a dog bite, and attended the scene of an arrest to take control of a dog as the owner was arrested. All peace officers responding to complaints from the village of Barnwell did conduct an evening blitz in the community. That was to curb speeding, stunt driving, and lay off-road vehicle and unsafe use. We even brought the CAO with us. Well, just to confirm what Sergeant Yetman has asked, we did conduct joint force operations with the RCMP in response to Grassy Lake. That was something that we've done very well, and we will probably continue to do going forward here with the restrictions being eased. Public education activities were also busy. Motorcycle month was this month. Mr. Peters, of course, having a motorcycle license and having a motorcycle, was quick to be able to discuss a lot of that with some of the riders in regards to looking more visible and making sure people do those safe lane changes. My sons and I did a very cute video for May 4th, the Star Wars Day, in regards to the pulling over Darth Vader. was extremely popular in social media, and that's the kind of the positive stuff we needed during COVID-19. So I'm glad that worked as well as it did. We did hold a moment of silence for one of our fellow peace officers who unfortunately passed away. She previously worked in Grantham as well as Coaldale. Her loss is something that our community peace officer program notes. We did spend a lot of time with the AHS COVID messaging on our social media, and as well as Mr. Peters was ensuring that the low German population was made aware of any changes. We did participate in Emergency Preparedness Week. I think during COVID-19 it was kind of interesting to talk about emergency preparedness in the middle of an emergency, but we did participate in that as well. National Police Week was also observed by our peace officers. We did a virtual moment of silence. And then, of course, Crime Prevention Week also kicked off with our Rural Crime Watch and virtual tour of our CPO trucks. I did submit an article to the MD Connect, the new location of our CPO station, and our social media insights continue to grow. Under fire responses, we attended 0 fire calls while serving as our capacity of peace officers. Community events and patrols. We did a lot of COVID-19 birthday party parades. That was a lot of fun, and that's another thing we did with the RCMP as well. It's always fun to turn your lights and sirens on and make some children happy. So we're very happy that we could spread that during the COVID-19. We did receive a gift basket from one of the residents thanking us for our hard work during COVID-19. It was full of O. Henry chocolate bars, which Henry claimed as his and did not share. With that on the record. We also promoted some Halo on our social media, and we attended the Free Fry Friday at Western Tractor, which was a fantastic little last minute for us to get involved in that, but we were very happy to be there and to assist, and it was very good to see all our community partners there. I know the RCB was working on a very high profile file at the time, so we did represent them as well as our law enforcement community partners. We did Neho County's doing an initiative in regards to a YouTube video. We did put one of our CPOs in that. And we were part of a video regarding COVID-19 and social distancing started by the AACPO. So our guys have had some screen time, unfortunately. Interagency meetings were consistent as they always are with EOC meetings, meeting with myself, the CAO, and the Director of Ag regarding the recreational areas, reopening, the CAO of Barnwell, and we had a few other meetings with some other peace officer programs for our regional meeting, which is going to continue. It kind of started for COVID-19, but it's going to continue every month. We're going to meet with all our regional CPO partners, which is a very positive thing, I think. Training was actually up this month. I participated in the Wildland Fire Investigator Program. That's part of our Forest and Prairie Protection Act appointment. I also completed the subject matter expert writing course, and then CPO Peters also attended the Canadian Police Knowledge Network for note-taking and report writing, which is fantastic. And CPO Butler was equally as busy doing investigating workplace incidents for our Occupational Health and Safety Committee. Bylaws also, 26 in the month, 5 of them included dogs. Thankfully, we were able to return all those dogs to their owners. We did most of the major issues we're dealing with was trespassing. That's just the time of year right now. Some of them were hunters, some of them were people just out for a walk. Unsightly premises and unauthorized uses are up, but I very much suspect that will decrease very quickly here. Requests for patrols were 44. That has, again, COVID-19, flooding and some heavy rains. We did have some watches in effect with the Grassy Lake. CPOs did step up their patrols on the weekends in order to ensure people weren't stuck on the island. Rural Crime Watch, CPO Butler did participate in the RCW Zoom meeting as well with Director Badura, who's on the committee. And emergency management-wise, we were very busy with COVID-19 response, as well as the heavy flooding on the 21st in the Forks Campground. Upcoming events, and obviously COVID-19. We do have 2 community events in regards to annual general meetings. I do have that regional CPO sergeants meeting, and also National Aboriginal Day is the 21st of June. We're kind of looking, we're going to find out how that's going to be celebrated because we participate in that every year. It's an important event for us. And that is the Community Peace Officer Report for May 2020. Subject to any questions from Council.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Sergeant Hughes on his report?
Merrill, I just got one question and a little bit unrelated, but you mentioned Forks. Is it flooded now, or are they able to still get in there?
This morning, Community Peace Officer Butler was on his way there. Yesterday, we patrolled in the morning and in the afternoon. There is definitely water in the overspills. Is it as high as it was, say, in the weekend? It is not. It's gone down. However, we did receive a lot of rain in the last 24 hours, so we're going to double check it today. There was, at one point, I think, the Friday or Saturday, one of the guys was out. There was water that had cut off the island, and CPOs managed to get across to the island and double check the people that were there. There was no one on the island physically. There were some vehicles there. We ran the plates and contacted the registered owners. They were aware of the flooding. They had gotten off the island, and they were making arrangements through Jason Bullock in order to be advised when that water level would lower so they can pick those vehicles back up. And we've been patrolling the area to make sure there's no vandalism or thefts or people that shouldn't be on the river. Particularly, they have to be aware that there's flooding conditions present.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Hearing none, thank you very much for your report and for the work that you guys do in our communities and hamlets and the presence you have out there. So we need a motion for each report, right, Candace? Can we get a motion to accept Sergeant Yetman's RCMP report? Okay,
I can move the motion. Oh, sorry.
Brian gave us that one. All in favor?
Favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In
In
favor.
favor.
Thank you. And the Community Peace Officer report?
I can give you that motion.
Okay, John gives that motion. All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Okay, thank you. Carried.
Mics are now one click. You click on, they stay on. They didn't use that old. Now they've changed it. You just click them when they're on. Just so you know. That's why we're getting echo.
All right, back to protocol items. Any announcements or recognitions? I am unaware of any. Does anybody have anything that they would like to make an announcement about, or?
Like I said, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our local RCMP detachment and everything that's going on in the world right now. I think it's important that we recognize the hard work that's done in our community with policing, whether that be our CPOs, the Tabor Town Police, or RCMP.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no others, we'll move on to confirmation of the minutes, May 26th regular council meeting minutes. Any corrections or amendments? Hearing none, we would accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I can move the minutes
Okay,
of May 26th regular meeting.
okay, Jennifer gives us that motion. All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Thank you, that's carried. Minutes of our June 1st special meeting of council. Any corrections or amendments? Go ahead.
Actually, I have a question. Sorry,
Okay.
just backing up a little bit. We did have some meetings, and actually I forgot to double check our first set of minutes, where a few counselors were not just there via conference. And I couldn't remember which ones it was exactly when we started. Was it just our special meeting? Was that the first one last week? We had counselors in the room and not just through via conference?
Yeah, I think the special meeting you were here, right? But the regular meeting you weren't. I think it was just the special meeting that you two came in. So the minutes of May 26th, it was just 3 of us in the room. Everybody else was on via conference call. But on the meeting of June the 1st, we had
Yes, that's true.
oh, that's right.
Yep. 4 counselors were in the room.
If you can,
Reeve Harris, Councillor Mianega, Councillor Turcado, Councillor Reynolds. That being said, they were also on via teleconference, but they were physically in the room.
they were physically in the room. If you can make
So
that
we can
change,
note that.
Candace. Okay. Thanks for that notice. Any other corrections on those minutes, June 1st? Somebody willing to give a motion to approve?
Tamara, I can make the motion to accept the June 1st special meeting of council with the notation of which councillors were present in the council chambers.
Okay. All in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. In
Okay.
favor.
In
Carried.
favor.
Thank you. Carried. Public engagement process. Anybody online that would like to address council this morning?
Merrill, it's also, council meetings are also open to the public as well. Just, I know you can see who's here or not here, but they are
Yep.
also open to the public,
Yep.
physically.
Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Does anybody have a conflict, a declaration of a conflict of anything that is in the remainder of the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the consent agenda. There's some committee reports, as well as some correspondence from Alberta Agriculture and Forestry. Let's just stay to committee reports. Anybody have anything in the committee reports they'd like to bring out and discuss? Okay, we'll move down to correspondence. A letter from Minister Dreeshen to Leavitt regarding agriculture research. Anything you want to discuss there, Leavitt, at all? Okay.
No, I think that was just in regards to the having the irrigation factor for that as well for that study.
Okay, the next one was information brochure from Martin Shields, our MP. Any questions on that letter or that information brochure? Anything anybody wants to bring out? There's really no decisions need to be made on any of those. The addition to the agenda was a letter I got. Let me just see where I can find it here real quick. Just because I want it, I can't find it now.
Reeve, while you're looking for that, I just wondered if I could speak to one of the items from my report.
Okay.
Just wanted to acknowledge the staff at Tabor and District Housing. They are looking after Clearview Lodge and all of the senior housing and affordable housing. They have had a tremendous work put on them to ensure the safety of all their residents. And so I'd just like to commend the work that they're doing and the support they've also received from the province. It's, at this time of concern and what we've seen in some other long-term facilities, Tabor has done an excellent job, as well as the seniors affordable housing that's in our communities and hamlets.
Okay, I got an email saying that the South Grow Annual General Meeting is Wednesday, November 24th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Todd Hirsch, who is the chief economist of Alberta Treasury Branch, is the scheduled speaker. And just wanted to know if somebody was interested in attending that annual general meeting.
Reeve, at the AGM, they normally invite all members of council, or is that correct? Not just the representatives? And we do have time.
Yeah, it just said, "Dear Board of Directors," and I guess right now I'm the one that's been attending, but I was just curious if anybody else wanted to go.
I would be interested in listening in, Mario.
Okay.
I believe it's a Zoom
It's
meeting,
going
is
to
it
be a
not?
Zoom meeting, not an in-person meeting. So, I mean, I'm guessing anybody could join in if they were interested in it. So I will, when the actual invite comes, we just need to RSVP. So we can do that. Candace, could you do that for those that want to attend? Anybody else want to attend via Zoom this South Crow Annual General Meeting?
I would also be interested.
Okay. So that gets us down to the end of the consent agenda. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay, Brian's given us a motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor, carried. All right, request for decision on bylaw. Public meetings, live streaming. So we will turn it to Bryce or Arliss.
Yes, thank you. Reeve Harris. With regard to the agenda item 8.1, RFD, live streaming discussion and potential decision. This was discussed, I believe, at the last council meeting briefly, in which council gave us direction to bring back some more information. This RFD serves as that additional information, and it is presented as written, and we're here to, Bryce Serena is the staff lead, and we're here to answer any questions that council might have as best we can.
Okay. I know we've talked about it for a long time here and never really come to a decision positively one way or the other whether we want to do this. And we had a Zoom meeting yesterday to have kind of a demonstration of it. Thoughts around the table and thoughts for any counselors out there? Brian?
I guess the one thing we haven't talked about is the cost implication. What is the cost of this? I believe it was budgeted for, was it not?
So there is some budget funds that, I mean, we can fund it easily out of our operating budget. Under budget implications on the RFD, your initial, this is the initial cost one time. So video encoder system upgrade and setup is expected to be around $3,245. Your camera purchases and running the cabling for audio and video, a one-time fee again, $2,200. And then the annual maintenance for this live streaming module, which is an AllNet product, is essentially $2,000. So the maintenance item is an annual cost. The other items that I outlined were one-time setup costs.
Okay, we already use AllNet. Is this in addition to what we're currently paying to AllNet?
It's in addition, but I believe it's about $1,000 discount. And Bryce, you can confirm that.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it is in addition, and it is a $1,000 discount being applied as a bundle.
So Bryce, can you, with what we're doing now, tell us the number of people that actually watch or listen in, or at a later date listen to this stuff that, you know, the council meetings and whatnot? I mean, is there lots of people listening to this, or is it just one or two interested people?
Yeah, the numbers they're not large numbers. It would be dependent on the topics, of course. If individuals are interested in certain topics, there's going to be a tendency to have larger numbers for certain meetings going forward. But for our current views, they are fairly low. So it is viewed as as an additional means of accessing our meetings and accessing information. with the potential for fairly low views going forward or on any particular topic, right? But we certainly can provide very specific numbers for views after, post meetings, and going forward provide those kind of stats to council as a metric, if you want to use that as a metric of success for sure.
And staff time devoted to this, and like if we went as far as tagging the video that this part of the meeting starts at here and et cetera, how much staff time do you think it's going to take to operate this system and do all those things that the public would like the video tagging, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, the actual running of the meeting is actually much more efficient than we're manually right now. Manually, we're configuring the sessions and streaming out our YouTube streams and such. So we will gain some efficiencies within the actual streaming of the meetings, just the direct stream itself. But as far as the tagging goes, there will be an additional contribution from admin as well, admin clerk as well for tagging the different resolutions. Now that is an optional service, that is an optional service that we can provide. Although I think, and Candace could mention as well if she has an opinion on this, but it looks like it's very minimal in the sense that you tag just resolutions or set a standard for points, kind of key areas within the minutes, so that individuals can very quickly navigate our minutes.
I don't anticipate it would be a ton of extra work. I don't want to speak for Candace, but I think after a little bit of cycles, it'll become a natural part of the process.
Be easier.
Candace, do you want to?
I don't anticipate it being that difficult either. Obviously, I haven't done it, so I don't know until I actually try it, but from what I've seen, it doesn't look that difficult.
Okay. And does this fit in, or like our communications, our citizen engagement policies, this fit into that, what we said we'd like to see there? Is that really why we're trying to do this?
I think, and I apologize, I don't know, I don't have the particular priority memorized, but I do believe that, transparency and governance was identified as one of council's priority, and I think it would be mostly suitable and contribute on that end. Yes, your usership or viewership may not be extremely high, but that being said, you're still, if it's something council proceeds to move forward with, it's still making it accessible, and that's I believe a key point of being or having transparent governance, right? Making sure that information is accessible.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for admin on this topic?
This is Murray here. Just wondering, with the social distancing, is there enough room spread around council, and with Arlos and Candace being at that other table, are they going to be far enough apart, or just wondering if anybody thought of that?
Yeah, so right now we are social distanced. Candace is at actually a different desk than me right now. So
I mean, if we all showed up to council, are we going to be spread out enough?
Yep.
Just a question.
Yep.
I think, yeah, I think we'll be darn close, to arm's length away from one another. I think it'll work okay.
And even to answer that in more depth, Councillor Reynolds, if we needed to, we would take extra measures to temporarily make sure that we're social distanced. No, there's no question.
I guess if some councillors didn't think it was far enough apart, we could also, invest in physical separation between the stations in the horseshoe here as well.
Okay, any more thoughts around the table regarding the AllNet live streaming and live streaming all of our meetings? Okay. We have a recommendation in front of us, as well as an alternate if one is to accept it for information and carry on the way we are. The other recommendation is to set up the AllNet streaming module for all public meetings, and that the initiative would be funded through the 2020 operating budget. Anybody willing to make a motion one way or the other?
I can give you the motion that council approves the implementation of the AllNet live streaming module for the public meetings, and further that the initiative be funded through the 2020 operating budget.
Okay, any further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
I'm in favor, so that's carried. All right, thank you. We will move to the next one, Rage Road 16-5 base pave.
Very good, thank you, Reeve Harris. This agenda item is being brought to council as a result of receiving the submitted tenders with that information, with the intent to award the project to the low tender. And Jack Dunsmore, our project manager, is in the meeting if we have any particular questions with regard to the tender process and moving forward with the project. And we can work to answer your questions.
Any thoughts here, Jack? Any comments you want to make before we?
Well, I don't believe so. The tender prices came in pretty much where we expected them to come, so I don't think there's anything out of line with them.
Okay. And the low bidder is a well-known paving company. Anybody have any more questions for Jack on this project or Arliss? Okay, we have recommended motion in front of us as well as an alternate. Anybody prepared or willing to make a motion?
I would be willing to make that motion that the MD of Tabor Council approves the lowest tender price of $586,062.49, excluding DST engineering and contingency as submitted by Tolstruck Construction Incorporated.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor?
I'm opposed.
Okay, one opposition. That's carried. Thank you. And that project will be done yet this summer, is correct, Jack?
Yes, the deadline for completion is October 31. We don't have a schedule yet. We won't until the tender's awarded and we have our pre-construction meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Next, RFD is a Tabor Exhibition Association request. Arliss or Jason?
Yeah, so we did have a request come to us last last council meeting from a different organization, and I know there was a fair amount of discussion on it. That being said, we're bringing the request forward that we had received, I believe, through Councillor Reynolds and the Agriplex Association. We're doing it primarily to keep council in the loop, so they have the information, as well as so that we can kind of keep track on the side of what we are doing from a perspective of providing in-kind services. But I can leave the meat and potatoes of the request to both either Jason Bullock as well as Councillor Reynolds, who believe sits on that board.
So is this just an acknowledgement of things we've been doing on a kind of a regular basis, but it's just coming in front of us this year? Or is this are these new requests that we haven't been doing in the past?
Operationally, I would feel most comfortable if Jason Bullock responded.
Okay, Jason,
to what we've been typically doing.
Those requests that are listed there in their letter have been items that we've been doing for them for a number of years now.
Yeah, I think they asked me this morning. They asked me at the meeting about this, and I told them, well, the way we're doing it now is just send a letter into council, and then we approve it instead of just the normal get it done, and this way we can track it too.
So you've been doing this work pretty much yearly then, Jason, this sort of work for him?
Correct. Some of those are public works items, but yes, we have been helping out the Agriplex and the Exhibition Association.
Okay. Well, it's good. I think it's good to kind of quantify what's been happening out there. And like I said, I didn't really know that this was happening, but that's okay. Any thoughts around the table? Any about continuing this?
I got one question. So I know there's that list, so what would, like, I guess, the monetary, how much in-kind donation would that equivalent to?
I'd have to run the numbers same as we did last council meeting for, that was for the Tabor Shooting Foundation. We can certainly use the same numbers and pull up the hours that are spent there and go that route. I couldn't get the number today if that's what you're looking for.
So, to Councillor Haug's question, I think part of the reason that we are tracking this on a separate spreadsheet is so that we can input actuals or closer to actual numbers. So once we know how much time is actually spent, then we would have a better idea as opposed to estimating those hours, right? And how much materials are used. We could just kind of go based off of actuals. So that information, at least while we're tracking it initially, might come after the fact.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think it's important for you to put some numbers beside it. Not that we can't approve you continue to do it, but I think putting some numbers beside it would help us in other areas that we have to discuss in the future. So, anybody prepared to make a motion one way or the other on this RFT?
I can make the motion, Merrill, that council approve the request for in-kind services for the Tabor Exhibition Association as outlined in the attached letter, and that we get some dollar amounts attached to it after they find out what kind of time is involved.
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Anybody? Okay, those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Favor.
In favor? Any
In favor.
opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you very much. Township 8, Range 16 Drainage Project, tender results.
Okay, thank you, Reeve Harris. Again, it's the tender is closed on this project, and we're bringing to council for award of the project based on the lowest tender price. Possible there may be a few questions on this particular item. Jack again is in the meeting, and we can work to address those questions.
Okay, any questions for Jack or Arliss on this project? Jack, is it within the range of what you thought this project might come in at?
It's actually a little bit lower than what I expected it to come in at, but that's the bid tender process. This company has already done a couple of bridge file projects for the MD of Tabor in the last couple of years. So we do know who they are.
And they're up to the work, yeah.
Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully.
John has a question for you.
Sure.
Just wondering, I know we do have the money in the bank for this. It was awarded from, I believe it was, the environment gave us this grant to do this drainage project. Just wondering if this comes in at this price, we have received more money than what we're going to be spending here. Is that right, Jack?
Yeah, this project was a 90-10 split, and I believe it was $2.58 million is what the project was based on, and we have 2.32 from the province. What we would probably look at doing is talking to them and see that typically that money has to be sent back to the province if you don't use it. But there may be some scope work that we can maybe broaden the scope a little bit, is what we would probably ask the province for.
I think the first priority, though, would be to get this project done, and then maybe have those discussions once we get that project done, yeah.
Is there more that could, I think you maybe answered that already, is there more that could be done in that project to make it even better than what it is set up to be?
There is a possibility of that. There would be some things we would have to look at, and the only way that could work is it would have to be tied to the project itself. You can't move 10 feet or 10 miles over and do another project. It would have to be, we'd have to show that.
Okay. Any further comments, questions for Jack or Arliss on this project?
So with that being said, Jax, would there be a possibility then to expand the boundaries of this?
I would say probably not expand the boundaries, John, because then you get back into doing more engineering and more Water Act approval. It would probably have to be something on the lines of where is this water all going to, and is there something downstream that the water goes to that could be impacted and we could do some work on. But again, that will depend on what Alberta Environment thinks as well.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns with this project? Hearing none, we have a recommended motion in front of us and an alternate. Is anybody prepared to make a motion one way or the other?
I can make the motion.
I can give it. Go ahead, John.
I can make the motion that the MD of Tabor Council approve the tender price of $1.1528 million as provided by Osaterra Limited for the construction of the West Township 8 Range 16 drainage project.
Okay, any further discussion? Those in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Favor. Carried. Thank you. And Jack, this is a 2020 project, but done before fall, correct?
The tender document again states October 31st of this year.
Okay.
The funding we had extended to, I believe, March of 2021, and part of that has to do with making sure the plants grow in the wetland component that we had to do as part of this project.
Okay.
So yeah, the tender document states October 31.
Okay. Thank you.
2020. Yeah.
All right. Next, we move down to the Vauxhall Rest area and the tender results on that project.
Correct, Reeve Harris. Similar story to the previous two construction projects that were on the agenda today. The tender is closed. It's here for award. And the lowest tender price actually did fall within our original budget. So.
Okay, and I think I asked the question earlier. East Butte is from Picture Butte area?
I believe so, yeah.
And they're a well-known company, Jack?
They are more of a construction type company. I believe they did work on the walking trail for the MD north end of town, but they are going to be subbing out the paving portion of the project, and that's the big portion of it.
And this project is also a 2020 project. They'll be getting to work on it here fairly quickly.
It's another one, October of this year,
Okay.
October 31st, 2020, yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns needing answers before we vote on this one? Tamara.
So I'm glad to see what the tender came in, but as we've just gone through this agenda, quite a few projects. As our admin team feel we have the resources in place to execute these projects. And then second question is, at one point we talked about where the current trucks that are parked on the site were going to go. Have we had conversations with the town of Vauxhall for alternative parking?
So with regard to our resource complement to execute the projects, that is our goal. It's our goal to get these projects done by that established date of October 31st. So I'm going to say yes. With regard to discussion around alternative parking, we'll pass the torch to perhaps Jack and see if he has any additional insight there. I know they have had some pre-tender meetings and whatnot.
Yeah, we had a pre-tender meeting out on site, and at that time it was discussed that where the trucks are parking now would probably be the laydown area for the contractor when he's on site. So until it's confirmed the project's a go, and then at that time, if you want, I can go have a chat with Chris Burns at Vauxhall and let him know what's going on, if that's what you wish.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many trucks park there every night, but there's a number of them, and I guess they've got to find somewhere else, most likely within the community of Vauxhall, to have their trucks parked overnight. So we should at least have the conversation with Vauxhall as this is what we're doing, and hopefully we can accommodate the trucks somewhere in town.
Right. And there may not be that much equipment in the laydown area. There still may be some places available to park for the weekend. I've seen as many as 5 or 6 parked there.
Yeah. And we're confident that this company can do this project.
Yeah, with the sub they have for paving, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. All right. This project's been on the go for quite a while, number of years. We've been working on getting this one done. All right, any further questions, anybody on this project or? Have a motion in front of us if anybody's willing to make a motion, or they can change the motion.
I can make the motion that MD Tabor Council approve the lowest tender price of $1,808,297.80 as submitted by East Butte Contracting Limited for the Biofuel Rest Area Project.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
All right, carried. Thank you very much. We'll now move down to bylaws. Bylaw 1956, MD of Tabor Fire Services Bylaw, Schedule A Amendment. Chief Schaefer.
Good morning. So follow up from the last council meeting that we talked about, updating the 3 items there onto our Schedule A so they conform when we happen to bill an insurance company that we will get paid back by the company. So the 3 you see there, incident command trailer and the washroom, the heavy equipment, and the drone photo or drone video. We updated the terminology on number 11 to heavy equipment, and the drone photos we added the as per invoice cost as we had discussed. And those were the only changes to that.
Okay, any comments, questions, or anything for Chief Schaefer on the proposed amendment, Schedule A amendment? I think we had a good discussion on this at the Fire Committee meeting last week. So any further discussion? Okay, we have a proposed recommendation to council as well as a couple of alternates. Anybody prepared to make a motion on this Schedule A change?
I can give you that, Murray here. Council approved the 3 additions as amended to Schedule A of current fire bylaw in 1956 to the MD of Tabor Council.
Okay, any further discussion or comments? All those in favor of Murray's motion?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Carried, thank you very much. Next one is bylaw 1966, the Town of Tabor Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw, MD of Tabor, Town of Tabor Intermunicipal Development Bylaw.
Yeah, she's here.
Okay, Bonnie, or
Yep.
or Arlos.
Morning, Council. Yeah. So what we'd like to present to you for consideration is Bylaw 1966, which would be the new MD of Tabor, Town of Tabor Draft Intermunicipal Development Plan. And we'd request consideration of first reading and authorization to proceed with public consultation. With the Town of Tabor, we've worked administratively and through the Intermunicipal Development Committee to prepare a draft plan for your consideration. And over that time, what we've developed is a plan that's intended to promote collaboration, cooperation, communication between the both municipalities. And the intent of the IDP is to serve as a planning tool that would provide guidance to both municipalities with respect to their decision making through the agreed upon policies that apply within the plan area. And the plan is basically intended to support consideration of both municipal interests in decision-making, and then provide a framework that ensures that we're working cooperatively and fostering intermunicipal opportunities where possible, and by providing a forum to discuss those matters of mutual interest and or concern. Just very quickly about the plan itself, the key policy areas include the land use strategy, which divides the planning area into planning area A and B. Planning area A is the area that's closer to the town of Tabor boundary, and that's been identified as the core planning area, where intermunicipal interests are of most significance, requiring more detailed planning policy. And then planning area B is mostly a referral area, where consideration of future land use is intended to occur as it arises. The other key components include an urban growth and annexation section, other areas of mutual interest, and that deals with the areas that are actually outside of the official plan boundary. However, that does include the airport and the sewage lagoon and pivot area that the town is interested in having some intermunicipal discussions on, should there ever be any activity out there. Also, natural and historic resources, stormwater management, utilities and servicing, transportation and highway gateways, intermunicipal coordination and cooperation, and then the required administration and dispute resolution sections of the plan. The plan area is significantly smaller than our current plan boundary, and through negotiation and discussion with the town of Tabor, the area did eliminate, on your map 3 there, if you'd like to refer to that, it did eliminate a considerable amount of land to the north, to the east, and to the west of the current plan boundary. So even with that reduction, it is still a significant plan area that's intended to support long-term planning interests for many years to come. This attached IDT did go to the Intermunicipal Development Committee just last week, and they had discussed a number of interests. And this plan includes the revisions that reflected those discussions throughout the past year or so, which reflects the reduced IDP boundary, and then other matters that were discussed at the committee meeting that included concerns about stormwater management, servicing, and then that additional policy area that addressed other areas of mutual interest, and then the gateways concept. Gateways concept being ensuring some visual continuity along the provincial highways in the entrances and exits between the municipalities. Should council find this draft acceptable, as I mentioned, we would recommend consideration of going to first reading and then authorization to proceed with public consultation. We would need to go to the public and hold a series of either open houses or focus groups to get comment on this proposal, as it hasn't been out to the public yet. And then the format and timeline of that public consultation, we're proposing that we would determine that in consultation with the town of Tabor, so that our efforts would be coordinated and most likely would occur as a joint undertaking. Then upon conclusion of that public consultation period, then we would come back to council and request a public hearing where all of that information and possible amendments would be presented at that time.
Okay, okay. I know that Bonnie and Kirk and Joanne and Arliss have spent a lot of time getting this document to where it is. Both MDs and the town's Intermunicipal Development Committee has agreed that this is a good draft or a good plan. We're recommending it to both councils for approval as well as public consultation. When we were thinking, Bonnie, most likely not till like September for the consultation, just because we're heading into summer. It'll probably be a little bit difficult to get much attendance at public meetings for a discussion on this at this point in time. does anybody have any questions or concerns or comments on the draft that's in front of you? Arliss, from your perspective, anything that stands out that we need to discuss further from a council perspective on any of the items that are in this plan?
I would say nothing in it over and above what Bonnie has not already told us, so. I think it's taken a bit of time for both administrations as well as both intermunicipal committees to get to this point. And at the last meeting, which was earlier this month, they did make that motion to refer it to each councils for first reading, followed by consultation. So.
Right. Tamara, you've been on that committee. Anything that stands out to you? Like I said, I know it's taken a long time. I'm not sure how long, Bonnie, you've been working on it, but it's taken a long time to get an agreement that both sides were satisfied with.
I echo the Reeves comments. Thanks to our administration and Bonnie for their work. I think some good items were discussed even by the elected officials, though, as setting priorities, which we brought back to council for review and discussion. So I think this gives us a continued positive working document with the town of Tabor and allows us to go forward with planning to forward the MD's concerns as well as the town's. So I really commend the admin for the work they've done.
John?
I have one question or comment. I don't know, maybe this is for Bonnie. Just on some of the concerns that were brought forward from, I guess, planning in the past when it comes to different operations, I guess, that the town has taken on that have negatively impacted our agricultural area and the surrounding lands around the town. I'm just wondering if that has been addressed in this document, that they will be reporting of any such new developments?
Well, with regarding specifically agricultural operations, we did have a discussion about that. And I think some of the concerns that had been identified by the MD of Tabor through discussions, it was determined that in those circumstances, it was the result of lease agreements of which the municipality wouldn't have been notified, even if there was an IMDP in place. So through those discussions and an understanding that the paramountcy of agriculture is clearly defined in the land or in the draft IDP, it was determined that there wouldn't need to be any additional policy established within this IDP, as agriculture is considered to be of primary importance. Now, that still would likely not address requirements to notify whether or not there was lease undertakings. Lease undertakings is really a matter of individual municipal interest. So that particular circumstance probably would not have been addressed through this IDP.
Can you explain, Bonnie, the area that we have to, and that's probably here on this map that's in front of us right now, that like we have to notify them of what we're doing within what distance of town and what they have to notify us with what distance in town. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Can you just elaborate on that, Bonnie?
Sure. So the referral area is identified on map 4 of the plan.
What page is that, Bonnie?
That would be right after page 40. I don't know what it is in the PDF document, unfortunately, there.
No, that's fine.
Still keep going. It would part.
Yeah, right after page
part 5.
Map 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Page 51 of 90 on your iPad.
Okay. So this reflects the IDP referral area. So everything in gray is in the MD of Tabor, and that reflects the referral area. Everything within a quarter mile of the town of Tabor, within their boundary, is their referral area. Now, we have defined specifics in terms of what those required referrals are, so not everything is referred. We have committed to circulation of any proposed municipal development plan and amendments, proposed land use bylaws and amendments that would redesignate land that would affect permitted and discretionary uses within the plan area, any proposed area structure plans and amendments, and then area redevelopment plans and amendments. Now, within the town of Tabor, that's possible that that area could be expanded depending on which parcels are actually part of what would be an area structure plan or an area redevelopment plan. Then prior to issuance of a decision, we would circulate any conceptual design schemes, overlay plans, shadow plans, outline plans, subdivision applications, discretionary use development applications, except for residential development, unless there's conditions that apply to that with respect to access. So if in either municipality access is being taken from an adjoining road, that permitted use application would be circulated. Any application that's going to propose connection to a municipal water, sewer, and stormwater system that's under the control and jurisdiction of the other municipality, or if the development would affect drainage systems under the control and jurisdiction of the other municipality. Then there's any development applications within a direct control district. If there's letters of concurrence for telecommunication towers, any development application involving a sand and gravel pit or extractive processes, and any non-residential renewable energy projects, so solar, wind, and biofuel. And then any development, including a private or public utility or works, which could have a major impact on the other municipality that would involve major traffic or employment generators as well, and then potential noxious or nuisance effects. Wastewater treatment facilities, including expansion or intensification of use, sandy dump sites and facilities, landfills, composting facilities, and waste transfer sites, including any expansion or intensification of those uses. So it's fairly comprehensive and is intended to ensure that both municipalities have an opportunity to make any comment on proposals prior to decisions being made for all of these types of uses, which I think should adequately address both municipal interests.
So let me run a scenario past you here. Let's say there's a company that comes in, wants to rent some land from the town of Tabor for research on a disease or something like that with agricultural lands. Would something like that have to be reported to the MD of Tabor?
Within a quarter mile, if they're going to be proposing any buildings, yes. If it's outside of that quarter mile, then no. However, there are also components in this plan that are built in to ensure that both administrations are meeting on a regular basis and that we share information about upcoming developments. And certainly we can continue to share concerns about impacts on agriculture as a result of research undertakings. We also did have this discussion and acknowledged that could occur in the MD of Tabor without a development permit as well. So it's just an understanding that regardless of which municipality it would occur in, it could occur without a development permit.
I think the difference being we have, I guess, a better understanding of what might be negatively impactful to agriculture, whereas I don't know that other municipalities might have that same understanding.
Well, and so that's one of the things that could be brought up and discussed through the Intermunicipal Development Committee. The committee is designed to share intermunicipal concerns and interests and that that would be an example of something that would be very well suited for additional discussion through that committee.
I guess my problem is if it's not down in paper and something should happen, it would already be, the horse is already out of the fence.
So Bonnie, if this issue that John is talking about here is, you know, he's bringing it up, but during public consultations, if it's brought up, can it go back to the Intermunicipal Development Committee for, I'm not sure if an amendment's the right word, but further discussion before we go to second reading?
Yeah, it would actually be prior to the public hearing. So then we could submit all that information as part of the public hearing and propose any amendments. Moving forward with first reading, then any change to the bylaw would constitute an amendment. And so certainly that's something that through the public consultation process, we could explore further.
Okay.
I guess part of my problem is that since they've expanded their annexed area, they've got a lot of land within their boundaries that could be used for multiple uses that could negatively impact agriculture in the area. And sometimes without a real good understanding of agriculture, another group might not see the negative impact, but I think if it was circulated, we might be able to point those out.
Well, and to clarify too, if it's something that requires a development permit, it will be circulated. The example of the lease agreement, that's where that's not specifically addressed in the IDP because it's more of an administrative undertaking in terms of who the municipality chooses to lease land to. Just like any individual within the town boundary who has agricultural land or a large parcel of land could lease it to anybody else for whatever agricultural undertaking. I guess that's kind of how we looked at it, that really the lease component is something that would be outside of the IDP. Now, that's not to say that we can't have discussions about it and further explore it with public consultation. And so perhaps maybe there's a list or information that we can provide specifically to the town of Tabor with respect to the types of industry or types of research or undertaking that may be detrimental to agricultural operations as a starting point. Because quite honestly, we did not delve that deeply into the discussion in terms of what those impacts the MD may perceive or be concerned about.
However, it was discussed and acknowledged that we wouldn't want to negatively impact one or the other. And so, you know, I always worry about lists, because if you have a list, you could lose something and forget in there, and you could go back and say, well, it wasn't on the list. Whereas we have a general sense of respect, and we have seen some things in the past, maybe that we didn't feel we had, for lack of a better word, full disclosure. But I think those items were discussed at length at the IDP, and we did convey our concerns that they did and do have negative implications on farmland. So it's not that those discussions weren't had, and I appreciate Bonnie acknowledging that we could delve deeper in, and I think that the IDP is open to that. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they would be. We have had really hard discussions, so I don't know if it changes the context of the IDP, though.
One other thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Reeve. The other thing I kind of wanted to mention here that Bonnie and I and Joanne has spoken about this exact type of scenario more than once. I think it's important to note that in the IDP, we do have a resolution component attached to the process itself through the IMDC committee, that if we feel that there is something that does occur, we can always bring the matter up forward through that IMDC committee and then to discuss it with the town of Tabor then. So we do have, although we didn't dive completely deep into things like leasing, we did dive very deeply into things like resolution and conflict resolution management, and determining that if in the event that these events or these types of scenarios do play out, that we do have the ability to bring them forward and have a discussion about them. And to echo some of the comments made by some of the other councillors, it's part of our goal to have this type of discussions in an open and fair manner with the town of Tabor to build on those collaborative and relationships that we're hoping to build throughout this IDP process.
Next question I have for you, Bonnie, is can you explain, and I don't know if all the councillors understand the town's desire to have their lands across the river and their water treatment plant included in the plan. Can you maybe just expound on where they went with that?
Sure. Arliss, if you could go to map 3, which is in part 3, just after page 14 of the plan.
It's on page 23 of 90 on your iPad.
All right, so if you'll notice, there's some green areas, hatched green areas that, oh, just scroll down a bit there, Arliss. There we go. The hatched green areas that fall outside of the plan area, which encompass the MD of Tabor Airport, the sewage lagoon area for the MD of, or for the town of Tabor, and then there's 5 pivot circles where they discharge treated effluent from the sewage treatment plant on those quarters. We had a significant amount of discussion on whether or not these areas should be included within the plan boundary themselves or identified as just areas of other mutual interest. And so it was determined that it was determined that it would be best to not include them within the plan boundary itself, but to identify them as an area that is recognized for significance with respect to transportation infrastructure, and then also servicing infrastructure, which is vital to each of the municipalities. So the intent of the policies that are included in this plan under the other areas of mutual interest are intended to identify that these facilities are here and that these facilities are important to each municipality, and that will recognize and support that we're supportive of the fact that these are in each of the respective municipal ownerships, and that we recognize that there is regional economic benefit to having these there. So then there are some policies that indicate that any proposed development within proximity of the MD Tabor will require review and consideration to ensure the federal height restrictions and obstacle clearance areas are maintained and safety isn't compromised. And this would extend even into the town of Tabor, because obviously the types of development, if we have a 20-story apartment building being constructed, that does have an influence on flight patterns. So even within the town and within the MD, recognition of the MD of Tabor Airport would occur. Then both municipalities recognize the importance of the ongoing operation of the town of Tabor wastewater treatment facilities, and that the MD of Tabor would protect wastewater treatment facility and the pivot lands from incompatible uses on adjacent lands that might unduly affect safety and operations. So that would be simply through a circulation process Also, the majority of land around there is either owned by the MD of Tabor or the town of Tabor or the Crown. There is a small amount of private land ownership in there. However, where the development is, or where the land is located, it's really not conducive to anything other than some agricultural undertakings, which certainly wouldn't have any negative impact on a wastewater treatment facility. Then we have the standard policy in there, which is actually a statutory requirement for redesignation, subdivision, and development of land within 300 meters of the working area for schools, hospitals, food establishments, or residential uses aren't permitted. And that's under the subdivision and development regulation. And then that the town would practice good landowner responsibilities for their lands within the MD of Tabor to ensure that the best practices regarding operation of the wastewater treatment facilities and associated pivot lands is used. So they're very broad policies respecting each municipal interest in those particular facilities.
Okay. And then my last question: your public consultations would be open to any and all MD residents, or is there a notification area, or is it just blanket open to any interested citizen?
Well, certainly any interested citizen could participate. As far as the official notifications, we would send official notices to those persons who have land within the plan boundary, and then notifications could go in the newspaper for any person who's generally interested. Likewise, we'd probably post something on the MD website, which would allow anybody to make any comment that they wish. Likewise, anybody within the town of Tabor could participate if they so feel inclined to. We'll also have to circulate to the required agencies for consideration, so Alberta Transportation, because the school districts, even though this doesn't necessarily affect school undertakings, it's considered a statutory plan, so we do have to notify them. Then of the irrigation district and a whole host of other provincial agencies, we will circulate to them for comment as well, just as we have with other IDPs.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions or concerns with the draft that's in front of you? Okay. Well, I think before we go to our motion for a first reading, I think, Bonnie, we need to thank you and Arlos and Kirk and Joanne for all your work and patience in getting this draft agreement to where it is today. I know it wasn't an easy process, and we appreciate you looking out for the MD and getting this draft agreement prepared with the town. Like I said, both the towns, the IDP committee, which is the town, and the MD, have recommended it for approval. So going back to, we need first reading, is that correct, Arlos? Of bylaw 1966. Is anybody prepared to make that motion? And then we need, do you need a specific date, or we just leave that to you guys to come up with some public consultation dates?
So my suggestion would be you have your, if council so desires, you have your first reading. After that, a separate motion could be made to the effect of authorizing us to move forward with developing consultation plans with the town of Tabor. Okay. And we can go from there. Okay.
So the first motion we would need is a motion for first reading on bylaw 1966, the MD of Tabor, town of Tabor, intermunicipal development plan. Go for it.
I'd like to make a motion to have first reading of bylaw 1966 to adopt an intermunicipal development plan between the municipal district of Tabor and the town of Tabor.
Okay, any further comments, question, or discussion before we vote on this motion? All right. Those in favor?
In favor.
In
In
favor?
favor?
In favor?
In favor.
Okay, carried. Thank you very much. Second motion. Second motion would be to authorize administration to consult with the town on how to set up a public consultation and focus groups. Anybody prepared to make a motion to that effect?
I can make a motion that administration, I guess, work with the town of Tabor and come up with a public consultation strategy.
Okay. Any further comments on that motion? All those in favor?
In favor?
In favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor? Carried.
In favor.
Thanks, Leavitt. Carried. All right. That gets us down to, there was no consent agenda exemptions. Any council requests for information? Hearing none, we will now proceed into a closed session, so we need a motion to go into closed.
I can give you that, Murray.
Okay,
Move into closed session.
Thanks, Murray. All in favor?
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 In favor?
In favor. In favor.
Carried. So we'll let administration do, how about 5 minutes or 10? Yeah. We'll take 10 minutes before so I've got 11:38, so 10:48. How about that?